following the Supreme Court case involving immunity, which is very broad when it comes to official acts, and basically tells lower courts, you've got to determine if you're going to bring charges, what is an official act, what's an unofficial act. And by the way, Alvin Bragg, you brought a lot of official acts within your trial of Donald Trump. So what does that mean? Well, it means two things. One, initially, President Trump, and a lot of liberals thought this could change everything because people will forget about the debate because President Trump will be sentenced on July 11th, right before the Republican convention, and all the focus will be there. Well, that sentencing date has been vacated by Judge Juan Merchan, and the new date is September 18th. But what is key here is that new date has a big if. It says we're gonna adjourn to September 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. for the imposition of sentence. And here is the key, folks. If such is still necessary or other proceedings.
On the face of the immunity decision, because this was a state case, it was alleged acts before he was President Trump, that, okay, well, this probably wouldn't apply. Nothing really should affect that case, just all of the special counsel's cases. But the almost tactical error that Alvin Bragg did here is that he brought into evidence as a part of this case conversations and things that happened in the Oval Office while President Trump was President Trump. So this wasn't while he was candidate Trump. And when the lawyers, this was almost a surprise move, to me at least, within hours of the Supreme Court decision, had filed something in New York. And on the face of it, you're like, well, I mean, is that a last-ditch effort? Does it make sense? But because of the evidence in the case, which obviously the lawyers for President Trump were much more familiar with because they had been living that for months of their lives, it was almost a gift to them that he introduced this. He went so broad. It was the problem we said with that case from the beginning is how broad Alvin Bragg went, trying to make what would normally be a misdemeanor accounting issue into these felonies, that by going broad, he may have introduced evidence that could completely tank his entire case. And they filed a motion to vacate the jury's verdict. And that's what the judge, Juan Merchan, will be taking into account as well. Both sides have to file briefs, and he'll be deciding on that in early September before that sentencing date.
We have learned that the Supreme Court's decision on Monday with respect to immunity may also impact Alvin Bragg's case in Manhattan, because Alvin Bragg decided to widen the case in Manhattan. Keep in mind that essentially what was charged in Manhattan had to do with 11 counts related to invoices from Michael Cohen, 11 counts related to checks, 12 counts related to ledger entries, essentially accounting entries. And so then Alvin Bragg decided to bring in White House staff, and that then has implications with respect to the Supreme Court's decision-making on Monday, suggesting that official acts of the president are entitled at least to the presumption of absolute immunity, if not complete absolute immunity.
We've got to determine that, if it's official or not. We kind of have to set a bar for that. If it's not official, is it then something criminal that we could prosecute? If it was official, is there something about that official act that somehow took it out of official act to be treated differently because it was such a bad action that it shouldn't be covered by official act? That is fact-heavy analysis that Jack Smith was hoping not to have to go through. And now to bring these cases, as Judge Merchant said, because there might not even be a reason for him to rule on these proceedings, on sentencing, like the whole case could be tossed out, he's got to go through an entirely new fact pattern.
I think that's correct, but part of the issue, of course, is Alvin Bragg's unlimited ambition. In other words, he took New York State misdemeanor charges and then tried to bootstrap a misdemeanor case into a felony case. But in order to do that, he had to rely on a federal violation, which the judge declined to charge the jury with a focus on. So I think at the end of the day, what we have is an attempt to get Trump as opposed to an attempt to basically find a basis for justice.
What can't be overlooked here is the politics of it all.
Right.
One, the fact that both of these prosecutors, both Alvin Bragg and Jack Smith, were leading political charges the entire time, trying to elevate these charges because they wanted to have the most political impact against President Trump. But now you also have the Democrats in a tailspin, not just about the victories at the Supreme Court for President Trump, which you see.
Right,
well, and if you watched the press briefing yesterday with Karine Jean-Pierre, you expected it to be all focused on the immunity decision and how the White House was going to handle that and what that meant. Barely at all. All of it about the president's fitness to run and serve another term, because the carryover from the debate last Thursday is still so palpable that you're getting headlines like this from the New York Times this morning. Biden told ally that he is weighing whether to continue the race. And essentially, he told this key ally that he knows he may not be able to salvage his candidacy if he cannot convince the public in the coming days that he's up for the job after the disastrous debate. He's got a high-profile interview with George Stephanopoulos. They're filming it on Friday. Portions will be aired Friday night. And then the full, longer, I say full, their full edited version will be released on ABC this week on Sunday. But he knows that he has to show up and somehow calm the fears of the public with a pre-taped interview with a friendly George Stephanopoulos. Pre-taped. And he has 2 events in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. What is your read on the politics of this?
He is fine when he has the teleprompter and he's in front of 10,000 people or 5,000 people, whatever it is, cheering his name with these chants, 4 more years or, lock him up and all these different things. And he's laughing and they put a lot more makeup on him and they tan him up and he looks better and he's standing at the stage. He's got the 2 teleprompters and he's a pro at that for the most part, though. Occasionally he starts reading the words like, repeat it one more time. And he says it. Repeat again.
Long pause.
Yeah, long pause. I mean, some of it you're like, this is... But he certainly looks a lot better than what he did at the debate. So I think what his campaign is trying to say is, listen, look at how Joe Biden appears to be delivering the message the next couple of times you see him out over the July 4th holiday and the July 4th holiday weekend. And if you like that Joe Biden, just remember, he had a bad first debate. We can correct that. We can figure that out. We've only got 1 more of those to get through. And we can deliver on our policy and still scare people from Donald Trump. The issue is that, like we said, if key Democrats and more are coming out each day, I mean, supposedly they were having to talk Joe Manchin out of doing it on Sunday on the TV, and that came out today. But that they are literally would love these key Democrats to have Joe Biden make an announcement that he will serve out the rest of this term, then open up his delegates to appoint someone who will be better to take on Donald Trump based off the debate performance and the fact that he has, by that debate performance, all of the characterizations by President Trump and the campaign and the conservative world became real. They came to life during that debate.